Hey there, if you're watching or listening, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe. And let me know in the comments, where are you right now, and what year is it for you? Because for ***, the year is 1347. The air in the hovel is a suffocating blanket, thick with the smell of damp straw and unwashed bodies, a sharp tang of stale ale clinging to the rafters. Your stomach aches, a dull, persistent throb that has become a constant companion, echoing the gnawing emptiness inside. You shift on the packed earth floor, the coarse fabric of your tunic scratching against your skin, a familiar discomfort. The flickering rushlight casts long, dancing shadows, distorting the rough-hewn timbers around you, making the small space feel even more oppressive. This isn't a life you chose. It's the muddy ditch you tumbled into, a last resort when every other path had crumbled to dust. A presence settles nearby, a man you've never seen before, yet his arrival carries a strange weight, a tremor in the quiet. He doesn't speak, not yet, but the subtle shift in the air, the way the shadows seem to deepen around him, commands your attention. You feel his gaze, an assessing weight that strips away your meager defenses. He slides a hand across the rough table between you, and a clink, soft yet resonant, catches your ear. A coin, glinting dully in the poor light, rests on the wood. It's more silver than you've seen in months, perhaps years. Your eyes fix on it, the metal cool and hard, a tiny promise of warmth and substance. His hand moves, pushing the coin closer, a silent invitation. You hesitate, your own palm damp with a cold sweat that has nothing to do with the hovel's heat. Then, almost involuntarily, your fingers close around the silver, the edges digging into your skin. The weight of it is unfamiliar, potent. He leans in then, his breath a faint whisper against your ear, carrying the scent of something exotic, spice, perhaps, or foreign wine, a stark contrast to the stench of the hovel. The words are hushed, barely audible above the distant sounds of the night, not a command, but a shaping, a molding of your desperate circumstances into a new, terrifying form. It's an outline of a path, indirect and shadowed, hinting at journeys, at false identities, at a life that will demand you shed every scrap of who you were. You feel the immense, crushing vulnerability of being utterly dependent on this shadowy network, this fleeting contact. Your mind races, picturing months, maybe years, of watchful waiting, of assuming a guise that isn't yours. You imagine the mental strain of living a lie, the constant gnawing fear of exposure. The weight of the coin in your hand feels heavy, not just with its monetary value, but with the burden of what it represents. A grim choice laid bare, a desperate plunge into the unknown. The whisper fades, but its echo reverberates, promising an escape from immediate misery, yet hinting at a future steeped in profound moral compromise and endless danger. You feel the tremor of a new existence beginning, the resilience of the human spirit pushed to its very edge, even as the cold, hard silver presses into your palm. The air bites with a chill dampness, a heavy scent of fermenting grapes and stale wine clinging to the rough-hewn stone walls, mingling with the acrid whisper of melting beeswax. You stand in the suffocating quiet of a cellar, the single sputtering candle on a rough wooden crate casting your shadow long and distorted against the uneven surface. A faint drip echoes from somewhere deeper in the gloom, a tiny, relentless reminder of the cold, seeping earth that presses in all around. Your breath catches, thin and shallow, tasting of the wine-sour atmosphere. The broker, a figure you now recognize from that fleeting moment in the hovel, moves with an unsettling grace, his form dissolving and reforming in the flickering light. He gestures, not with a flourish, but with a precise, almost imperceptible tilt of his head towards a small, heavy book laid open on the crate beside the candle. It's an unforgiving ledger, its pages thick and yellowed, filled with neat, cramped script that speaks of records, of debts, of lives tallied and accounted for. You don't need to read the words to feel their immense weight, the binding power they represent. This isn't just a simple arrangement, it's an indenture to something vast and unyielding. Your gaze drifts from the ledger back to him. His eyes, dark and unreadable, offer no comfort, no hint of a softer path. You understand now the extent of the commitment, the long, arduous road of assuming false identities. You picture yourself as a merchant, a pilgrim, a servant, the endless task of weaving a credible lie, day after day, for months, even years. The sheer mental strain of maintaining a fabricated persona, the constant vigilance against discovery, washes over you. Each step will be a performance, every interaction a potential trap. Discovery, you know, isn't just failure. It's a descent into pain beyond imagining, a brutal end with no whisper of mercy. He lifts a heavy, iron-bound flask, pouring a dark, potent liquid into a small, chipped cup. The scent, harsh and burning, rises, cutting through the cellar's mustiness. It's an oath, you realize, not just a promise, but a binding. You feel the tremor in your hand as you reach for the cup, the cold ceramic pressing against your fingers. Your throat tightens, a knot of fear and a bitter resignation. This isn't a choice made with freedom, but one born of desperation, a last resort for a life gone terribly wrong. You drink, the liquid searing a path down your gullet, leaving a metallic aftertaste that feels like iron and cold regret. The empty cup is placed back on the crate with a quiet thud, echoing in the heavy silence. The broker's eyes linger, a silent acknowledgement of the unshakable bond now forged. You are no longer just yourself. You are a tool, a shadow in service to a network you barely comprehend, with assignments that will come indirectly, through whispers and intermediaries, leaving you little control, immense vulnerability. Your fate is now tethered to this shadowy employer, a single entry in their vast, unforgiving ledger. The cold stone of the cellar presses in, a tangible reminder of the grim, constricted path you've chosen. A long journey into the dark heart of secrecy and moral torment. Your skin crawls with the knowledge of what you've just done, the indelible mark of a life changed, irrevocably. The biting wind whips at your threadbare cloak, carrying the faint, metallic scent of winter coming too soon. Your calloused hands, rough and cracked from years of digging and toiling, clench reflexively, feeling the cold clay of the barren field clinging stubbornly to your skin. The emptiness in your belly gnaws, a familiar, unwelcome guest that has taken up permanent residence. This isn't the life of some dashing, cloaked figure from a bard's tale. This is the grim reality of a disgraced peasant, an outcast whose world has collapsed, leaving nothing but the cold, hard earth beneath your worn boots. This path, this shadow-draped existence, was never a choice, but a desperate tumble into the abyss when every other footing gave way. You remember the whispers, the averted glances in the village, the weight of being broken, of having nowhere left to turn. There was no training for this, no elite academy, no glittering armor, just the raw, relentless pressure of survival. The glamour that poets sing about feels like a cruel jest when you're hiding in the back of a creaking cart, dust coating your tongue, or pressed into a freezing, cramped corner of an unfamiliar stable. Your body aches, a dull, pervasive throb that seems to emanate from your very bones, a constant reminder of the physical misery that is your new normal. Every movement is a calculation, every shadow a potential refuge or a lurking threat. You learned quickly that the whispered legends of assassins are just that, legends. The reality is far grimmer, filled with the stench of fear and the constant paranoia of being hunted. You carry the weight of your past, the stigma of being someone who fell through the cracks, someone disposable. It's etched into your skin, a silent tattoo of desperation and sorrow. There's no honor in this, only the chilling pragmatism of staying alive, of completing the unseen tasks set before you by distant, uncaring masters. The rough wood of a merchant's cart, the damp straw of a pilgrim's bed, the cold stone of a stranger's cellar. These are your new homes, transient and unforgiving. You learn to make yourself small, to breathe shallowly, to blend into the mundane fabric of existence, all while the truth of your purpose screams silently within you. The loneliness presses in, a suffocating blanket woven from secrecy and the knowledge that one misstep means not just death, but likely torture, with no chance of mercy. Your spirit, once resilient against the harshness of peasant life, now feels stretched thin, worn smooth like old parchment. You are a shadow given form, moving through a world that sees only the disguise, never the broken person beneath. The cold of the world outside seems to have seeped into your very core, a constant companion to your hollow belly and weary soul. The air inside the tavern is a thick, swirling soup of stale ale, rendered fat, and wood smoke, clinging to the rough-hewn beams and the ragged wool of your tunic. The low murmur of voices, a ceaseless, indistinct drone, presses in, a constant reminder of the many lives intersecting, yet utterly separate, within these smoke-soaked walls. Your fingers trace the sticky grain of the table, feeling the cold, damp stone floor beneath your worn boots. This isn't a grand hall for elite spies, nor a hidden training ground for noble agents. This is where your lessons begin, in the grimy, unfiltered reality of desperate lives, a stark testament to your own fall. You observe, as you have been told, the quiet hum of ordinary folk. A merchant haggles loudly over a cup of watered wine, his hands expressive, his worn cloak hinting at long journeys. A pilgrim, fresh from the road, speaks of distant lands and holy sites, his tale embellished with a practiced ease that makes you wonder what truths lie beneath the surface. You absorb their mannerisms, their speech patterns, their subtle tells, because soon, you will become one of them, or something like them. This apprenticeship isn't about mastering a blade, but mastering a lie, a slow, agonizing process of shedding your skin and donning another, thread by thread. It's a low-status existence, learning to blend, to disappear, to become truly unremarkable. The individual who spoke to you in the cellar appears now and then, a phantom presence at the edge of your vision, never directly instructing, but subtly guiding your gaze, a barely perceptible nod towards a group of noisy drinkers, a silent gesture towards a lone, somber traveler. Your assignments, you understand, will come indirectly, through such intermediaries, leaving you with little control, immense vulnerability. The true masters remain unseen, their influence like an invisible hand pushing you deeper into this shadowed world. The glamour of legend, of heroic figures, feels like a cruel mockery in this gritty, authentic space. There's no honor here, only the raw, visceral challenge of psychological survival. You feel the immense mental strain already beginning, the constant internal rehearsal of fabricated identities. To become a merchant, a scholar, a servant, not for a day, but for months, years, demands an iron will, a complete surrender of your true self. The fear of discovery, of being unmasked, is a cold knot in your gut, a certainty of torture and death with no chance of mercy. Each breath you take is a lie, each glance a calculation. The physical hardship is a constant companion. The cramped hiding places, the perpetual hunger, the biting chill that seems to seep into your bones even here, by the hearth. You are an outcast, a disgraced soul, forced into a trade with no training, no glory, only the relentless grind of a life gone terribly wrong. The persistent hum of the tavern becomes a drone, a backdrop to the quiet dread that settles within you, a grim understanding of the harsh, tragic path you now walk. Your resilience is tested, not by battle, but by the endless, exhausting performance of living someone else's life, knowing that true humanity is a luxury you can no longer afford. The air, thick with the cloying sweetness of cinnamon and the sharp tang of dried ginger, clings to your new merchant's cloak, a heavy, unfamiliar scent that is not your own. You feel the rough wool of it against your throat, an almost suffocating embrace. Subtly, your teeth find a loose thread near your collar, an unconscious habit, the coarse fabric pressed between your molars, a silent anchor to the performance you now inhabit. This isn't your life, it's a meticulously crafted lie, a script you rehearse endlessly in the quiet hours, syllable by syllable, gesture by careful gesture. Your new name, a name that feels alien on your tongue, rolls off easily enough when you introduce yourself to a new face in the bustling marketplace. You watch their eyes, searching for any flicker of doubt, any hint that they see past the prosperous cut of your clothes, the carefully aged leather of your coin purse, the confident set of your shoulders. Each smile, each nod, each expertly deployed piece of fabricated history, is a thread in the elaborate tapestry of this false identity. The psychological toll of maintaining this facade is immense, a constant, draining hum beneath your conscious thoughts. You are a merchant from a distant land, with tales of silks and spices, but inside, you are a hollow vessel, waiting. Days bleed into weeks, then months. You linger in bustling towns, then move to quiet villages, always circling, always observing. You are a shadow in plain sight, living among strangers, learning their customs, their rhythms, their vulnerabilities. You listen to gossip by the communal hearth, note the habits of guards at the castle gates, study the patterns of servants carrying water from the well. This infiltration demands more than skill. It demands an absolute erasure of self, a complete immersion in the fabricated persona until the boundaries between truth and lie begin to blur, leaving you adrift in a sea of your own making. The stakes are a constant, icy breath on your neck. Discovery isn't just a failure of the mission. It means imprisonment, torture, a gruesome public execution with no hope of mercy. You imagine the pain, the betrayal etched on the faces of those you've come to know, however superficially, if your true purpose were ever laid bare. You witness intimate moments in the homes you visit for trade. A father playfully tickling his child, a wife's quiet concern for her sick husband, and a pang, cold and sharp, pierces through your practiced detachment. These are snippets of genuine human connection you are forbidden to truly feel, destined instead to betray. You find yourself in cramped, temporary lodgings, sometimes a barrel in a cellar, sometimes a hidden alcove behind a tapestry, waiting for the signal, for the next, indirect instruction from a shadowy intermediary. The physical misery of these conditions, the damp, the cold, the sheer stillness required, only amplify the internal torment. Your true self, the disgraced peasant you once were, is buried deep beneath layers of spice-scented lies and rehearsed smiles. You are a ghost, haunting your own life, perpetually on the edge of detection, perpetually alone. The weight of this unending performance, the burden of these impending betrayals, presses down, a quiet, inescapable agony that defines your every waking moment. The fine, ever-present dust of the road grates between your teeth, settling on your tongue, a gritty taste that has become as familiar as the ache in your feet. The sun beats down, relentlessly, warming the sweat that trickles down your back, chilling as it dries beneath the rough wool of your pilgrim's tunic. In your hand, the smooth, worn wood of your staff feels like an extension of your arm, a constant companion on this long, arduous walk. You smell the mingled scents of unwashed bodies, stale bread, and the faint, sweet perfume of incense carried on the wind from a distant village chapel. This is the costume you wear now, the role you embody, a devout seeker, traveling for spiritual solace, not for murder. Each step is a performance, a deliberate rhythm that matches the hundreds of other pilgrims surrounding you. You learn to walk with a convincing weariness, a practiced humility in your gaze. You murmur prayers you barely understand, mimic gestures of devotion, and listen to the heartfelt confessions and hopes of those who genuinely believe in the journey. The psychological toll of maintaining this charade is immense. You are a vessel of lies, constantly vigilant, every interaction a tightrope walk over an abyss of exposure. The fear of discovery is a cold, metallic taste at the back of your throat, a knowledge that one wrong word, one unguarded glance, means an end you dare not contemplate: torture, a public death, no mercy. You gain trust, sometimes too easily. A kind old woman shares her meager rations, her eyes full of pity for your seemingly humble journey. A young man, enthusiastic in his faith, confides his simple dreams as you walk side by side for days. You listen, you nod, you offer feigned sympathy or encouragement, weaving your fabricated persona deeper into the fabric of their lives. A bitter truth blossoms in your gut. You are witnessing their intimate moments, their genuine humanity, only to later betray it all. This emotional burden presses down, a leaden weight that saps your spirit more than the physical miles. The mission, though indirect in its command, guides your path. You know where your target resides, the general route of their movements, the fortified walls of their home, or the court they frequent. Your pilgrimage is a slow, methodical infiltration, an opportunity to observe, to gain access, to gather intelligence without suspicion. You learn the layout of a monastery, the habits of a local lord, the shift changes of guards, all while cloaked in the guise of piety. The physical hardship is constant, sleeping in crowded, flea-ridden hostels, enduring cramped hiding places like haylofts or barrels when necessary, the gnawing hunger that never quite leaves. You are not an elite spy, not some noble agent. You are a disgraced peasant, an outcast, forced into this brutal trade as a last resort. There is no glamour in this, only the relentless grind of survival and the grim certainty of the act that awaits. Your true identity, your past, feels like a ghost, haunting the edges of your carefully constructed lie. The path ahead is long, filled with the dust of deception and the sweat of fear. Your assumed faith is a shield, but beneath it, your soul feels like a battlefield, constantly enduring, constantly in pain, the humanity within you slowly, irrevocably eroding with every step of this long, silent march toward an act of unforgivable betrayal. The thudding rhythm of your own heart hammers against your ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the oppressive darkness. The air, heavy and stale, carries the ghost of old dust and the metallic tang of fear, a familiar taste that coats your tongue. You lie coiled in a space barely larger than your body, Perhaps a hidden alcove behind a tapestry, or the cramped confines of a forgotten cellar, listening. Every creak of the ancient timbers above, every distant scuttle of a rodent, transforms into a potential betrayer, a footfall, a whispered accusation. Paranoia is not just a feeling, it's a living thing, an invisible serpent coiling around your gut, tightening with each passing moment of stillness. Sleep, when it comes, is a shallow, fractured thing, haunted by shadows and the relentless obligation of your fabricated life. You jerk awake, muscles tense, straining to identify the source of a sound that was likely just the wind, or the settling of stone. The constant vigilance has etched lines around your eyes, sunk them deep into your skull. For months, perhaps years, you have been someone else. A merchant with a robust laugh, a pious pilgrim with downcast eyes, a quiet scholar engrossed in texts. The lines between your true self and the carefully constructed lie have blurred, fraying at the edges until you sometimes wonder whose memories are your own, whose thoughts truly belong to you. Your mind feels like an overstretched canvas, thin and transparent, threatening to tear with every passing strain. You remember the faces of those you've fooled, the trust in their eyes as they offered a warm meal or shared a secret. The immense burden of that impending emotional betrayal weighs heavier than any physical task. You learned their rhythms, their vulnerabilities, not out of genuine connection, but out of grim necessity. And in the dark, the faces flicker before your eyes, a silent accusation even before the act is done. This constant internal manipulation, this perpetual readiness to deceive, is a torment far more insidious than a visible wound. The assignments arrive indirectly, a coded message in a seemingly innocuous letter, a subtle gesture from a stranger in a crowded market. You are a pawn in a game whose rules are always shifting, always beyond your control. This dependency on a shadowy employer network only fuels the deep-seated paranoia. Who among them might turn on you? Who might use your existence as a convenient scapegoat, just as others have blamed the Hashitian for crimes without proof? The legends speak of swift, precise strikes, but the truth is a life lived in cramped hiding places, in an endless cycle of waiting, observing, and fearing, all of which grind away at your very soul. The possibility of capture is a cold knot in your chest, a stark image of torture, of being broken, of an agonizing, public end with no chance for mercy. There is no honor in this shadowed existence, only the relentless pursuit of survival, the slow decay of humanity under the crushing weight of deceit and constant fear. You are the sleepless stranger, perpetually adrift, carrying the unbearable weight of a life that was never chosen, but violently imposed. And as the night stretches, long and unforgiving, you feel the essence of who you once were continue to erode, replaced by the bitter, ever-present taste of paranoia. The name, the one you were born with, feels like fine sand slipping through your fingers, barely a whisper on your tongue, its edges blurred and worn by years of disuse. The mirror you occasionally glimpse, a polished metal surface reflecting a flickering torch, shows not a singular identity but a collection of masks: the earnest scholar, the boisterous merchant, the devout pilgrim. You trace the lines etched around your eyes, lines of fatigue, not age, and wonder whose face truly stares back. It's a constant, dizzying struggle, this fracturing of memory, this unsettling drift where dreams feature faces that aren't yours, and a fabricated past feels more concrete than your own buried history. Months, sometimes years, have melted into one another, each day demanding a seamless performance. You assume identities not for a fleeting moment, but as a deep, consuming embrace, learning new cadences of speech, new habits, even new ways of breathing. The psychological toll is immense, a relentless pressure on your very essence. You wake sometimes disoriented, unsure of which persona you are meant to be, whose memories you should recall. The boundary between the lie and the last vestiges of your true self has eroded, leaving behind a gnawing hollowness, a profound sense of self-loss that no physical hardship can match. You remember the warmth of a target's child's hand in yours, the shared laughter over a simple meal, the earnest confession of a hopeful servant. You gained their trust, not with genuine affection, but with calculated empathy, carefully chosen words, and a practiced sincerity that tasted like ash in your mouth. The weight of that emotional betrayal, of forming genuine human attachments only to know you will ultimately shatter them, is a relentless burden. It settles deep in your gut, a cold, festering wound that never truly heals. This manipulation, this coercion of trust, adds a moral torment that grinds your spirit thin, leaving you questioning the very definition of your own humanity. The secrecy and paranoia are constant companions, twisting every shadow into a potential threat, every casual glance into a harbinger of discovery. You are constantly hunted, not just by external forces, but by the relentless fear within. The romanticized tales of assassins, of cloaked figures striking with swift precision, feel like a cruel joke in the face of your cramped hiding places. A dusty barrel, a secret room beneath floorboards, a freezing hovel where you wait for weeks, for months, for the next indirect, poorly controlled assignment. The physical misery is a dull backdrop to the deeper, more insidious pain of your fractured mind. Your own name, the details of your life before this forced existence, become distant echoes, fading like footprints in desert sand. The very act of resilience, of clinging to sanity while living 1,000 lies, demands an unbearable price. You are a living testament to the grim truth obscured by legend. A tragic life, devoid of honor, constantly betrayed, even by your own self. And as another day bleeds into a night of fractured rest, you feel the persistent ache of a mind wearing thin, a soul irrevocably scarred by the unending performance of a life that was never truly yours. The comforting warmth radiating from the hearth washes over you, carrying with it the rich, savory smell of stew simmering in a heavy pot and the subtle, sweet aroma of freshly baked bread. You feel the soft, worn cushion beneath you, a luxury unknown in your former life, as children's laughter echoes around the modest chamber, bright and unrestrained. Their joy, innocent and pure, is a stark contrast to the coiled tension that perpetually resides within you. You watch as a child, perhaps the target's own, tugs at your sleeve, eyes wide with trust, asking you to share a story, and you find a ready smile, a practiced warmth, rising to your lips. You have spent months within these walls, slowly, meticulously weaving yourself into the fabric of this household. You arrived as a humble scholar, seeking patronage, or perhaps a skilled craftsman, offering your talents. You learned their routines, their small intimacies, the gentle way the master of the house speaks to his wife, the quiet moments shared over evening meals. You witnessed their hopes, their fears, their simple, profound humanity. Each shared meal, each moment of quiet conversation, each trusting gaze, tightened the invisible noose of emotional betrayal around your neck. This is the immense psychological toll. To build genuine attachments, to witness pure, unguarded moments, only to know your purpose is to shatter it all. The small hands, reaching for yours, the trusting glances of the family, they pierce through your carefully constructed facade, if only for a fleeting second. You are a low-status individual, forced into this trade. A last resort for a life that went terribly wrong. Certainly not an elite spy or noble agent. Yet, here you are, sitting by their hearth, eating their warm bread, absorbing their kindness, all while carrying the dark secret of your mission. The glamour of legend, the romanticized portrayals of assassins, vanish in the face of this quiet, suffocating intimacy you are tasked to betray. There is no honor in this, only the gnawing ache of a conscience slowly being devoured. Your assignments come indirectly, a whisper in a crowded market, a cryptic message delivered by a hesitant intermediary. You have little control over the mission's details, even less over your own payment or ultimate fate. This constant dependence on a shadowy network only amplifies your vulnerability, making every moment inside this warm, trusting home a delicate dance on a blade's edge. Discovery would mean torture, a gruesome, drawn-out death, with no chance of mercy. The warmth of the fire on your skin is a cruel reminder of the cold terror that lurks just beneath the surface, the grim reality of what you are, and what you must do. And as the children finally drift to sleep, their innocent breathing a soft rhythm in the quiet house, you feel the weight of their laughter, their trusting smiles, press down on you. Your body aches, not from physical exertion, but from the relentless strain of maintaining a lie, of witnessing the humanity you are about to extinguish. This quiet intimacy, this hearthside trust, is the heaviest burden of all, a testament to the profound and tragic cost of this unforgivable existence. The rustle of fine linen, almost silent, is the loudest sound in the chamber, a stark contrast to the thrumming in your ears. The pre-dawn chill presses against your skin, a biting cold that seeps through your worn tunic, but a sudden, searing heat floods your hand as it closes around the hilt of the blade. The air is heavy with the scent of undisturbed sleep, of beeswax and faint wood smoke, a fragile piece you are about to shatter. Your breath catches, shallow and sharp, as you move, a shadow detaching from the deeper gloom of the alcove you have inhabited for endless hours. You approach the sleeping form, every muscle coiled, every sense heightened. The brutal reality of the task, the grim necessity, cuts through the psychological exhaustion of months of deception. You are not some elite spy, not a figure of legend. You are a desperate peasant, forced into this abhorrent trade, your life a series of wrong turns culminating in this dark moment. The target shifts, a soft sigh, and a gasp, sudden and raw, rips from their throat as the cold iron plunges. You feel the immediate resistance, then the sickening give, and the handle warms instantly with a rush of blood, a sensation that burns through your glove, searing itself onto your memory. The moment is over almost before it truly begins. The scent of blood, coppery and acrid, now fills the air, mingling with the last vestiges of peaceful sleep. There is no triumph, no sense of accomplishment, only the desperate, immediate need to escape, to sever all ties with this scene. Your movements are practiced, swift, honed by the cold knowledge that failure means an unspeakable end, imprisonment, torture, a public execution with no chance of mercy. The legends that surround assassins are lies, romanticized portrayals. There is no honor here, only the grim, tragic truth of a life constantly hunted, constantly on the brink of betrayal, even by your own desperate choices. You melt back into the shadows, the chilling silence of the chamber now punctuated only by the ragged echo of that singular gasp, a sound that will forever haunt your waking hours. The weight of the deed presses down, heavy and suffocating. You are fleeing not just the castle, but the quiet intimacy you had cultivated, the trusting faces, the shared moments of warmth that now feel like the cruelest of deceits. The emotional betrayal, woven so deeply into your false identity, now feels like a physical stain that no amount of running, no amount of hiding, can ever wash away. Out in the pale light of dawn, the world seems indifferent, bustling with the sounds of a new day, oblivious to the horror you have just wrought. Your body aches, not just from the exertion of the act, but from the immense, crushing burden of what you have become. The cold metal of the blade, still warm with the life it extinguished, feels like a permanent extension of your hand. The pain of living this existence, of carrying such a profound moral torment, is a constant companion, a testament to the inescapable, harrowing reality of a life that was never chosen, but violently imposed. The biting chill of the alley wraps around you, a damp embrace smelling of wet stone, stale refuse, and the faint, earthy scent of rain. Fat droplets splatter from the sagging eaves above, striking your hood and running cold trails down your neck. You stand pressed against the rough-hewn wall, trying to blend into the deeper shadows, your cloak pulled tight, every muscle tensed. Your breath, a thin cloud in the gloom, carries the metallic taste of anticipation and the bitter tang of a hunger that never quite leaves. You are waiting, exposed, for a whisper, a gesture, a cryptic message from a face you barely know, yet whose word holds your precarious fate. He arrives, a figure emerging from the swirling mist at the alley's mouth, indistinct yet instantly recognized by the deliberate slowness of his movements. He offers no greeting, no eye contact, merely pauses at a specific point, drops a small, weighted leather pouch into a hidden alcove, and continues on, a ghost disappearing back into the rain-slicked street. Your hand darts out, retrieving the pouch. No satisfying clink of coin, only the unsettling softness of a folded parchment tightly sealed. Your fingers tremble slightly as you break the wax, the silence of the alley punctuated only by the drip of water and the frantic thrum of your own heart. The message is brief, coded, outlining a new target, a new persona, a new place to infiltrate. There is no mention of the promised payment from the last mission, no acknowledgement of the weeks you spent living in cramped hiding places, the mental strain of months under a false identity. Just a new demand, a fresh burden. The promises made to you, vague at best, always seem to evaporate like mist in the morning sun. You are a tool, a disposable piece in a larger, shadowy game, controlled by unseen hands who offer little but more desperation in return for your harrowing work. You clench your empty fist, the phantom weight of earned coin heavier than any actual gold. This helplessness, this utter powerlessness in the bargain, is a constant, festering wound. You're not an elite agent, not some celebrated spy. You are a disgraced peasant, an outcast, forced into this brutal existence because there was simply nowhere else to turn. This wasn't a chosen career, it was a last resort, a plunge into the abyss when your life had already gone terribly wrong. There's no glory here, only the grim, unyielding reality of being used. And knowing you're utterly dependent on this network of intermediaries who view you as less than human. The fear of betrayal, of being sold out or framed, is a cold, creeping dread. You know accusations are often politically motivated, assassins used as convenient scapegoats in larger struggles. You are just a name, or rather, no name at all, a ghost dancing to the tune of others, always at risk of meeting a grim end yourself, perhaps by internal treachery, just as Carausius was felled by his own treasurer. The cold rain seeps into your bones, matching the chill in your soul. The parchment crumples in your hand, a bitter testament to unending demands and empty promises. Your humanity feels like a fading ember, struggling against the harsh wind of an existence that relentlessly consumes it. The acrid smell of stale smoke and damp earth clings to the air in this forgotten corner, a scent as familiar as the gnawing ache in your stomach. Torchlight, held aloft by a hooded figure across the grimy courtyard, casts dancing, elongated shadows that seem to mock your meager presence. The cold stone presses against your back, seeping into your bones, a constant reminder of the physical hardship that is your unchosen companion. You shift, trying to find warmth, but your threadbare cloak offers little solace against the biting chill of the night. Your eyes, accustomed to the gloom, fix on the silhouette of your intermediary, a conduit to the shadowy network that dictates your life, and whose promises of payment are as fleeting as mist. He moves with a deliberate slowness, a whisper of cloth against stone, and gestures with a subtle flick of his wrist towards a darkened alcove. There's no greeting, no eye contact, merely the silent command. You understand. This isn't a negotiation, it's an instruction. Your hand, calloused and rough, retrieves the small, heavy parcel from its hidden drop point. The weight promises coin, but your fingers immediately detect the unsettling lightness. Inside, nestled amongst a few paltry copper pieces, is a tightly rolled parchment, sealed with a familiar, impersonal wax stamp. Your heart sinks. The cold truth settles in your gut as you unroll the message under the dim spill of light. Another assignment, another face to assume, another target to infiltrate. No mention of the substantial sum promised for your last perilous task, the one that saw you living for weeks in a cramped, vermin-infested hideaway, constantly on edge. The few coppers in your hand barely cover a single decent meal, a cruel insult for the risks you just took, for the psychological torment of maintaining a false identity for months on end. Your empty pockets are a constant, bitter reminder of your true standing, a desperate, low-status individual, forced into this brutal trade, not an elite agent. This isn't a career you chose. It's a last resort, the grim consequence of a life that went terribly wrong. You have no control over the mission, no say in the payment, only the crushing vulnerability that comes with dependence on these faceless employers. The thought gnaws at you. If you object, if you demand what was promised, will they simply cast you aside, replace you with another unfortunate soul? Or worse, will they turn on you, betray you to save their own skin, just as Carausius was undone by his own treasurer? You are expendable, a convenient scapegoat should their complex political machinations ever unravel. The choice's survival forces are stark and unforgiving. Accept the next deadly assignment with uncertain wages, or face destitution, capture, and an agonizing end. There's no glamour in this flickering torchlight, no honor in these shadowed negotiations. Only the cold, unrelenting pressure of a system that exploits your desperation, grinds your spirit, and demands everything for almost nothing in return. And as you walk away, the new parchment heavy in your hand, you feel the familiar ache of a life where your worth is constantly diminished, yet your humanity, somehow, stubbornly persists. The sickening squelch of cold mud pulls at your boots with each agonizing step, a sound absorbed by the vast, oppressive darkness of the moat. The stagnant water, thick with decaying reeds and the faint, metallic tang of unseen filth, laps at your shins, its icy chill seeping straight through your worn breeches. Above, the formidable stone walls of the castle loom, silent and impenetrable, a dark silhouette against a sky still deep with night. You taste the grit of fear and exertion on your tongue, a constant companion in this desperate, unchosen life. Every breath is shallow, every movement a calculated risk against the omnipresent threat of discovery. Your hands, raw and aching, grip the crude wooden rungs of the ladder, each one slick with moisture and the residue of earth. You lift it, the wood scraping against the rough stone of the moat wall with a sound that feels deafening in the profound silence. Your heart hammers against your ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the tension that stretches taut between you and the looming fortifications. This isn't a daring adventure. It's a brutal, risky method forced upon you by circumstance. You are not an elite spy, but a desperate, low-status outcast, your life gone so terribly wrong that this harrowing infiltration is somehow your only path. Inch by agonizing inch, you position the ladder against the outer wall of the castle, the scrape of wood on stone a whisper against the roaring paranoia in your mind. The legends of assassins speak of shadowy, glamorous figures. This is anything but. This is cold, visceral struggle, the grim reality of a life lived without honor, constantly hunted. You begin to ascend, your muscles screaming with the effort, fingers numb on the icy wood. Each handhold is precarious, each foot placement a gamble. The cold mud, now clinging to your clothes and face, adds another layer to the physical and emotional misery that defines your existence. The silence of the night is absolute, broken only by your ragged breathing and the distant hoot of an owl, a sound that makes you freeze, every nerve ending alert. You cling to the ladder, your body pressed against the cold, unforgiving stone, an insignificant speck against the immense, fortified earth. One wrong move, one misplaced grip, one cough, and it's over. Failure here doesn't mean a return to safety. It means imprisonment, unspeakable torture, and a public execution with no chance of mercy. The sheer vulnerability of your position, dependent on luck and the fleeting absence of a patrolling guard, is a crushing weight. As you finally reach the top of the outer wall, pulling your weary body over the parapet, the chill wind whips across your face, carrying the distant scent of hearth smoke from within the castle. You are inside, for now. But the tension doesn't ease, it merely shifts, coiling tighter as the next phase of infiltration begins. Your body trembles from the exertion, your hands raw and bleeding from the climb, a testament to the harsh truths hidden behind romanticized tales. And as you melt into the deeper shadows of the inner courtyard, you feel the persistent ache of cold, pain, and the relentless, exhausting resilience required to simply survive another moment in this lonely, brutal world. The stale, thick air of the hidden passage presses in on you, heavy with the scent of ancient dust and a faint, acrid dampness that chills you to the bone. You can hear your own heart hammering against your ribs, a frantic drumbeat that threatens to betray your presence with every frantic thump. Every strained muscle in your body screams as you squeeze further into the impossibly narrow space, the rough, unyielding stone grating against your shoulders and back with each tortured inch. A bead of sweat, cold and sharp, trickles down your temple, tickling your brow, mixing with the grime. You are deep within the guts of a formidable, fortified castle, a place meant to repel invaders with its sheer mass and strength, not welcome silent shadows. This isn't the romanticized sneaking of an agile hero or an elite spy from a whispered legend. This is the desperate, suffocating reality of a life that leaves you crawling through the cold, earthen veins of an enemy stronghold, praying for an impossible silence, knowing full well that any lapse means a brutal end. You crawl forward, eyes straining in the near-total darkness, searching for the merest crack beneath the heavy, oak-studded door ahead, the telltale shimmer of torchlight from beyond. The air grows heavier, charged with unseen danger. A guard's heavy bootfalls echo down a distant, stone-lined corridor, growing louder, closer, each thudding step resonating deep in your bones. Your breath hitches, sharp and ragged. You freeze, pressing yourself further into the unforgiving, damp stone, the pervasive cold seeping through your threadbare clothes, threatening to lock your muscles into an immobile cramp. Then, a faint, almost imperceptible clink. A small, innocent pebble, dislodged by your trembling knee, rolls softly, maddeningly across the stone floor of the passage. Your blood runs cold, a sudden icy torrent through your veins. You hold your breath, every fiber of your being screaming for stillness, your very existence dependent on the guard's hearing, on the subtle currents of the cavernous air, on sheer, desperate, unearned luck. The bootfalls stop. A moment stretches, an eternity, thick with the metallic taste of fear and the dust of ages. Then, the heavy, grating scrape of a stout wooden door being hauled open. A harsh, blinding beam of torchlight lances into your sanctuary, searing your eyes, cruelly illuminating the cramped, dirty truth of your hiding place. A shout erupts, guttural and immediate, ripping through the silence, followed by the metallic rasp of steel being drawn from a scabbard. You scramble, a desperate, cornered animal caught in a trap, the rough stone tearing at your exposed skin, the pain almost an afterthought in the face of imminent capture. The world spins into a blur of frantic, survival-driven action, the clatter of weapons, the heavy thud of pursuing feet thundering towards you. The immense psychological toll of months of meticulously constructed false identities, of calculated infiltration and emotional betrayal, collapses in an instant. This is not how it was supposed to end, captured in the dark, a low-status outcast with little training, facing the brutal, merciless consequences of a life that was never truly your own. The air is suddenly thick with the nauseating smell of sweat, fear, and the inevitable, bitter stench of imprisonment that you already taste on your tongue. You feel the sharp, iron tang of your own blood, a fresh cut on your cheek from a desperate lunge, a desperate, futile attempt to escape. The romanticized legends of assassins, shrouded in secrecy and paranoia, dissolve completely, revealing only this harsh, unvarnished truth. That many like you meet grim ends from betrayal or capture, their lives tragic, devoid of the imagined honor. The biting chill of the castle stone seeps through your worn tunic, a constant, unforgiving presence that seems to press down from the towering walls and the vaulted ceiling above. The air here, in these ancient corridors, smells of damp earth, centuries of dust, and the metallic tang of unpolished iron. A lone torch, flickering on a distant sconce, casts long, dancing shadows that twist and writhe, creating a deceptive, shifting landscape of gloom and brief, treacherous light. Your breath catches, shallow and sharp, as you flatten yourself against the rough-hewn wall, your eyes darting, searching, mapping the unseen dangers in the geometry of this oppressive space. Every echoed step of your own worn boots feels deafeningly loud, a betrayal in the profound silence. You are not meant to be here, not truly. The false identity you wear, the persona painstakingly crafted over months, feels like a second skin, a thin, brittle shield against the crushing weight of exposure. You are a simple servant, perhaps, or a traveling merchant, but the truth of your desperate, low-status existence screams louder in the silent moments. This is not the glamorous life of an elite spy from whispered tales. This is the harsh, grinding reality of a man forced into a trade he never chose, a last resort for a life that went terribly wrong. The psychological toll of maintaining this charade, of constantly being someone you're not, is immense, a persistent ache behind your eyes that no amount of rest can ever soothe. Discovery here means torture, a slow, agonizing end, without a flicker of mercy. You move, a silent wraith hugging the deepest shadows, each step deliberate, weightless. The vast, empty corridors stretch before you, a labyrinth of stone and danger. Around every blind corner, behind every heavy wooden door, lurks the possibility of a guard, a servant, a chance encounter that could shatter your precarious infiltration. You navigate by instinct and the grim knowledge of these brutal methods, a ghost in a fortress designed to keep strangers out. The faint flicker of another torch, closer this time, makes your heart leap into your throat. You press yourself into a dark recess, barely wider than your own body, the rough stone biting into your flesh, reminding you of the physical misery that accompanies every assignment. The distant murmur of voices, indistinct yet undeniably human, raises the hairs on the back of your neck. You listen, straining to discern meaning, but the stone swallows the words, leaving only a low, threatening hum. The paranoia is a constant companion, a cold whisper in your ear, reminding you that these walls hide not just enemies, but unseen eyes, potential betrayals, traps laid by a shadowy employer network that cares little for your survival. The legends that surround assassins are nothing but a cruel mockery of your harsh, tragic life, constantly hunted, constantly on edge. You slip past the momentary light, moving deeper into the twisting passages, the scent of stale ale and simmering stew now faint, suggesting a kitchen nearby. Your mission, your survival, hangs by a thread, a single, taut strand in this web of danger. And as you continue, alone in the vast, echoing silence of the castle, your body ached from the physical strain, your mind reeling from the relentless psychological burden. There is no respite, only the continuous, grinding weight of your choices, and the desperate, unyielding need to breathe another day. The cloying scent of rosewater and expensive perfumes assaults your senses the moment you step into the great hall, mingling with the heavy aroma of roasted game and spiced wine. It's a heady, disorienting mix, starkly different from the damp earth you knew moments ago. The soft, melancholic strains of a lute drift through the air, weaving through the murmur of 100 hushed conversations and the rustle of silken gowns. You feel the unfamiliar scratch of fine linen against your skin, the stiff, embroidered fabric of prison around your movements. This costume, meticulously chosen, is your latest disguise, your courtly mask. It sits heavy, a physical manifestation of the immense psychological toll you endure, constantly pretending to be someone you are not. Your smile, though practiced to perfection, feels brittle, a fragile shield against the intense mental strain that hums beneath your carefully constructed calm. You move through the throng, a ghost among the vibrant, glittering nobility, your eyes constantly scanning, assessing, memorizing. Every laugh, every sidelong glance, every shift in conversation holds a potential threat, a clue, or a trap. You observe the target, a man of power, surrounded by his family. You see his genuine smiles directed at his children, hear his unguarded laughter with his wife, and a cold shard of emotional betrayal pierces your gut. You've spent weeks, perhaps months, cultivating this proximity, learning their rhythms, their habits, their vulnerabilities. You've watched their intimate moments, built a fragile, fabricated trust, all for this, all for the moment you will shatter it. This is the grim truth beneath the romanticized legends, the burden of a harsh, tragic life where honor is a distant, meaningless word. Your peripheral vision catches a guard, his hand resting casually on the hilt of his sword, his gaze sweeping the room with professional disinterest. One false move, one flicker of genuine fear or desperation in your eyes, one wrong word, and this opulent hall will become your execution chamber. There is no mercy in these courts, only swift, brutal justice for those who dare to breach their sanctity with ill intent. You remember the cramped hiding places, the cold barrels and dusty secret rooms, where you waited for days, for weeks, for the precise moment to enact this infiltration. The physical hardship is a constant, lingering ghost, a shadow of the misery endured for meager, uncertain pay from intermediaries who treat you as disposable. The lute music swells, then fades, leaving a momentary hush. Your hand brushes against the small, weighted object concealed within your sleeve, a subtle reminder of the brutal method required. The scent of perfume, once overwhelming, now feels like a stifling shroud, pressing down on your lungs, making it hard to breathe. The air in this room, filled with superficial courtesies and hidden daggers, is thick with unspoken danger. You are merely a desperate, low-status individual, an outcast playing a part on a stage where the stakes are your life, your very soul. You yearn for the simplicity of true solitude, away from the deceptive masks and the crushing weight of impending betrayal. Every muscle aches with the tension of the moment, a silent scream of existence teetering on the edge of the abyss. This endless masquerade, the constant self-erasure, leaves behind only the stark, raw truth of your humanity, clinging precariously to the fragile thread of survival. A heavy, resinous scent of myrrh and burning herbs hangs thick in the cool, damp air, clinging to your clothes, seeping into your very skin. It's a smell that promises sanctity, a sacred purpose, yet it feels suffocating, pressing down on you in this hidden, subterranean chamber. Low, flickering oil lamps cast dancing, elongated shadows across the rough-hewn stone walls, illuminating the hushed, robed figures who stand silent, unmoving. Your own breath feels shallow and tight in your chest, a fragile gasp in the profound stillness that precedes the ritual. This is where the legends are forged, where whispers turn into oaths, a secretive religious political order, yet the cold reality of your place within it remains unchanged. You stand among them, your face grim, your heart a dull throb against your ribs. The weight of the moment is immense, a crushing force that speaks not of glory, but of grim, inescapable destiny. Your eyes, accustomed to the shadows, seek out the robed figure at the altar, whose voice, when it comes, is a low, resonant murmur, each word whispered, deliberate, laden with unseen power. He speaks of purpose, of duty, of the influence they wield in the larger world through targeted killings, a complex web of Middle Eastern political and religious conflicts. You hear the names, ancient and significant, yet to you, they are merely echoes of a world that views you as nothing more than a desperate, low-status instrument. You are not an elite spy, not a noble agent. You are a disgraced peasant, an outcast, forced into this trade, a last resort for a life that has gone terribly wrong. Your hands, calloused and rough from a lifetime of labor, are now held aloft, following the silent command. You feel the cool brush of consecrated oil on your fingertips, a brief, fleeting sensation that promises elevation yet feels profoundly isolating. You are taking a sacred oath, binding yourself further to this shadowy network, acknowledging the heavy politics behind their every command. But you have no control over the missions, no say in the payment, only the crushing vulnerability of absolute dependence. The true glamour, the perceived honor that outsiders attribute to figures like you, is a cruel deception, a legend that obscures the harsh, tragic truth of your life. You are a pawn, a potential scapegoat. You're named to be blamed for crimes without definitive proof when it suits the larger struggle, just as others before you were. The weight of this oath settles upon you, heavy and chilling, even more so than the dampness of the chamber. It's a psychological burden, a brand on your very soul, committing you to years of false identities, of maintaining fabricated personas that will create intense mental strain. The thought of discovery, of torture, of death, flashes through your mind, a stark, unwelcome guest in this supposedly sacred space. Yet, you utter the words, your voice barely a rasp, knowing there is no turning back. You are bound, not by faith alone, but by the relentless grip of survival, by the choices an empty stomach and a desperate past have forced upon you. As the ritual concludes, the scent of myrrh begins to fade, leaving behind only the stark reality of your new, old life. Your body, weary from years of physical hardship, carries the weight of this sacred promise, a grim testament to the enduring human spirit trapped within an inescapable fate. The comforting crackle of the communal fire casts dancing, orange shadows across the faces gathered around it, their hushed voices a low drone against the cold night air. You feel the deceptive warmth on your cheek, a fleeting comfort that barely penetrates the deep chill in your bones. The air, thick with the scent of pine smoke and simmering broth, carries snatches of their conversation, words that twist into a knot in your gut. Assassin, shadow men, the hashishin. You listen, your false identity a heavy cloak, your expression carefully neutral, even as the exaggerated tales they spin prickle at your skin. This isn't just fireside gossip. It's the very fabric of the legends that obscure the grim truth of your existence. They whisper of phantom figures, elite spies, noble agents, capable of impossible feats, striking from nowhere and vanishing into smoke. You hear stories of men who are immune to pain, who kill without emotion, their motives shrouded in impenetrable secrecy. But you, listening there in the flickering light, know the raw, brutal reality. You are not an elite spy. You are a disgraced peasant, an outcast, forced into this trade, a last resort for a life that went terribly wrong. You feel the constant ache of your body, the gnawing anxiety of a mind stretched thin by months, even years, of fabricated personas. There is no glamour in your craft, only the constant threat of torture or a brutal death if your disguise slips, if you betray a flicker of your true, desperate self. A man gestures wildly, his face pale in the firelight, recounting the infamous assassination of Conrad of Montferrat, painting it with strokes of divine retribution and shadowy manipulation. He speaks of political plots, of powerful forces pulling strings, of how these assassins were blamed, used as convenient scapegoats for larger power struggles. And you, a pawn in that very game, feel the injustice of it all, the moral and psychological torment of being manipulated, coerced, and then blamed without definitive proof, your true circumstances twisted into terrifying fables. You have little control over your missions, even less over your payment, utterly dependent on a shadowy employer network that will just as easily betray you. The paranoia woven into their tales is palpable, a fear that breeds further exaggeration, making the mythical figures even more terrifying. This widespread fear, though misdirected, makes your already harsh, tragic life even more precarious. You live constantly hunted, always aware that you could be betrayed, not just by your employers, but by any suspicious glance, any whispered accusation based on these very legends. The honor they ascribe to these figures is a bitter joke, a cruel mockery of a life lived without true glory or recognition. As the fire slowly dies down, and the villagers begin to disperse, leaving you alone with the embers and the echoes of their fearful stories, you feel the profound weariness in your bones. The myths they create, the scapegoat they need, burn hotter than any log. You carry the burden of these legends, the weight of a life tragically misrepresented, a life where the fight for survival leaves little room for anything but resilience. Your humanity endures, a quiet, stubborn flame against the cold indifference of a world that fears what it doesn't understand, and in its fear, creates monsters out of desperate men. The cool, polished marble under your sandals feels unnaturally slick, a treacherous surface in the grand palace of Tyre. The air, heavy with the scent of burning olive oil from countless torches and the faint, sweet perfume of incense, hums with the distant echoes of celebration. Each flickering flame casts long, dancing shadows, making every corner a potential hiding place or a sudden threat. Your pulse quickens, a frantic beat beneath your ribs, threatening to betray the careful composure plastered on your face. This isn't the romanticized sneaking of an agile hero. This is the desperate, terrifying reality of a low-status outcast, thrust into a world of power and privilege, poised to commit an act that will define his short, tragic life. You see him, Conrad of Montferrat, recently elected King of Jerusalem, moving through the throng, his silks rustling, surrounded by his retinue. Your gaze is locked, your entire being focused on this single, pivotal figure. You've spent weeks, perhaps months, carefully cultivating a false identity, posing as a pious servant within his household, a pilgrim, or perhaps a scholar. The psychological toll of maintaining this fabricated persona has been immense, a constant, gnawing strain on your mind. Every casual conversation, every shared meal, has been a thread in a tapestry of deceit, a silent, emotional betrayal that now settles like a cold stone in your gut. Your hand, hidden within the folds of your simple tunic, clenches around the hilt of the small, sharp blade. It feels both impossibly heavy and terrifyingly light. Your assignment came indirectly, through shadowy intermediaries, giving you little control over the mission's specifics, even less over your own payment. You are a pawn in a larger political game, a tool in the hands of a secretive religious political order, a desperate soul whose life has gone terribly wrong, with this brutal act as your last, terrible resort. Failure means imprisonment, torture, and a swift, merciless execution, a fate you've witnessed others endure. The moment arrives, a sudden surge of bodies, a momentary gap in the protective circle around Conrad. Your feet move before your mind can consciously command them, a practiced, brutal motion learned from necessity, not training. You lunge, a blur of motion and desperate intent, the marble floor rushing beneath you. The torchlight, once a source of deceptive warmth, now flares, momentarily blinding you, before sharpening into a stark, unforgiving tableau. There's a gasp, a choked cry, the metallic taste of blood suddenly sharp in the air. The blade finds its mark, a swift, brutal strike, followed by another, tearing through the fine fabric, through flesh. Chaos erupts, a cacophony of shouts, screams, and the clatter of dropped objects. Hands seize you almost instantly, rough and merciless, dragging you away from the sudden, bloody scene. The overwhelming smell of hot blood mixes with the expensive perfumes and torch smoke, a nauseating cocktail that makes your head spin. The secrecy and paranoia surrounding your order have bred legends, but in this moment, those romanticized portrayals crumble into nothing. You are not a mythical figure. You are a captured, desperate man, facing the grim end that so many like you have met. As the world blurs into a flurry of fists and shouted accusations, your body, battered and broken, feels only the chilling sting of betrayal, both given and received, a testament to the harsh, unforgiving nature of a life lived on the knife's edge. A chilling stillness, far more unnerving than any scream, settles over the palace halls, broken only by the frantic scurry of servants and the hushed, urgent whispers that dart from shadowed alcove to polished marble column. The air, heavy with the metallic tang of fresh blood and the cloying scent of fear, presses down, stifling, suffocating. You are not physically present, yet you feel the aftershock, a tremor of pervasive suspicion that ripples through every tapestry-hung chamber. The grand celebrations have ceased, replaced by a frenzied search for answers, for someone to blame, a need to make sense of the suddenness of a famous strike. Eyes, once curious or dismissive, now narrow with distrust. Every face is scrutinized, every past association recalled. The murmurs begin, a low, insidious hum that quickly swells into a chorus of accusation. They speak of the young men, the blades, and quickly, the narrative solidifies. It was them, the Hashishin. The name, already laden with fearful legends, becomes a convenient vessel for all the unease and chaos. This blame spreads like a plague, infecting every conversation, every interaction, turning fear into righteous anger. They need a monster, a clear enemy, and a desperate, low-status individual, forced into a trade with little training or glamour, fits the narrative perfectly. You understand how easily your kind are twisted into these figures of terror, how the secrecy and paranoia surrounding assassins breed legends that obscure the harsh truths of your tragic existence. The political motivations behind these accusations are as transparent as the palace windows, yet potent in their effect. With Conrad of Montferrat gone, new alliances will be forged, old debts repaid, and coffers of suspicion opened, allowing certain powerful actors to subtly redirect the blame, perhaps even framing others to their own advantage. It's a game of chess played with human lives, and you, the anonymous instrument, are merely a discarded pawn. The initial shock of the assassination gives way to a calculated hunt. Every stranger, every outcast, every face that doesn't quite fit the established order, now falls under a harsher gaze. The true orchestrators, those who pulled the strings from a shadowy employer network, remain hidden, leaving their pawns to face the merciless justice of the court. Those forced into this life, these desperate souls, become easy scapegoats in larger political struggles, blamed for crimes without definitive proof, their motivations and desperation utterly ignored in the face of grander power plays. The pervasive distrust becomes a new kind of prison, even for those not directly involved in the assassination. Every whispered word, every shift in allegiance, is now viewed through the lens of betrayal and self-interest. The price of an influential life, violently ended, is paid not just by the victim, but by the countless lives now ensnared in the ensuing web of suspicion and fear. And so, the world moves on, forever marked by this sudden, brutal act, leaving behind a lingering sense of human cost, a chilling reminder of how easily desperate individuals become instruments, and then, mere echoes in the halls of history. The biting chill of the forest air stings your nostrils, carrying the damp, earthy scent of wet leaves and rotting wood. Each breath is a shallow gasp, ragged and burning in your lungs. Beneath your worn boots, the sodden earth squelches, and the fallen leaves, slick with recent rain, crackle betrayingly with every frantic step you take. You press forward, your muscles screaming in protest, pushing against an exhaustion that feels centuries old, a physical misery woven into the fabric of your very existence. Then you hear it, faint at first, a distant, baying sound that slices through the rustling branches and the thumping of your own frantic heart. Hounds. Their deep, guttural cries echo the constant sense of being followed, a paranoia that has become your shadow. You are not some elite spy or noble agent, gliding silently through the night. You are a desperate, low-status individual, a disgraced peasant whose life went terribly wrong, forced into this brutal trade as a last, terrible resort. There was no glamour, no chosen career, only endless flight. You scramble over a fallen log, your hands tearing on rough bark, the cold mud soaking through your tattered clothes. The psychological toll of living in hiding, of maintaining fabricated personas for months, even years, has worn you thin. Now, even stripped of disguise, the mental strain persists, the constant vigilance against discovery, against the torture and death that await capture. You remember cramped hiding places, the agonizing stillness inside a barrel or a secret room, waiting for decades for the opportune moment, only to face this relentless pursuit. The baying grows closer, a primal symphony of hunt and fear. You imagine their wet noses, snuffling at the tracks you leave, the cold, wet leaves underfoot betraying your every movement. This is the grim reality of your life, a harsh, tragic existence, constantly hunted, constantly betrayed. The romanticized portrayals of your kind are nothing but cruel illusions. You are a scapegoat, your actions blamed on political motives, your fate sealed by forces far beyond your control, with no definitive proof needed to condemn you. You plunge deeper into the thicket, thorns tearing at your skin, the pain a dull thrum against the sharper, colder fear. You push past aching limbs, past the gnawing hunger in your belly. The thought of mercy is a forgotten dream. You know there will be none. The path ahead is uncertain, fraught with peril, but the path behind you is worse. It leads only to the grim end that so many like you have met: capture, betrayal, the ultimate price. As the sounds of the hounds echo ever nearer, you feel the profound weight of time pressing down, each second a struggle. Your body, weary and scarred, continues its fight for survival, a testament to a stubborn resilience. In this cold, unforgiving forest, stripped of everything but the will to live, you are a raw, exposed piece of humanity, clinging desperately to existence, forever running from the shadows of your own making and the legends others have spun around you. The quiet hum of the village is gone, replaced by a brittle silence that stretches taut between the shuttered windows and heavily barred doors. You feel the change in the air, a prickling sensation on your skin, heavier and colder than the evening mist now clinging to the thatched roofs. There's a faint scent of stale wood smoke and unspoken fear, a bitter taste on your tongue. As you move through the narrow, muddy lanes, each of your footsteps seems unnaturally loud, drawing a swift, almost imperceptible closing of a curtain here, a furtive glance from a darkened doorway there. It's the sidelong stares that cut deepest, quick flashes of suspicion that flit across faces before eyes quickly dart away. You see it in the way mothers clutch their children tighter, in the sudden hushed tones that fall silent as you pass. The communal warmth, the easy camaraderie that once permeated these humble streets, has curdled into a palpable paranoia. This isn't just a village, it's a collection of isolated homes, each one a small, fearful fortress against an unseen enemy. You understand this fear, perhaps better than anyone. It's born from the legends, from the whispered tales of men like you, not the real, desperate, low-status individuals you actually are, but the phantom figures of myth. They talk of elite spies, noble agents, striking with impossible stealth, capable of anything. The secrecy and paranoia surrounding your existence have bred these stories, twisting your brutal, risky methods into something almost supernatural. But you know the harsh truth. The psychological toll of maintaining false identities, the constant threat of discovery, the physical misery of hiding in cramped spaces for months or even years. The rumors travel faster than any rider, spreading like a blight. An accusation, politically motivated, can take root and consume a community, blaming anyone convenient. You've seen how your kind are used as scapegoats in larger political struggles, blamed for various crimes without definitive proof. This isn't about justice. It's about control, about finding an easy target when fear eats away at the heart of a community. And because you are an outsider, a disgraced peasant forced into this trade, you are always an easy target. You feel the weight of this collective distrust, an invisible burden pressing down on your shoulders. It isolates you, separates you from the very humanity you sometimes ache for. You walk amidst them, yet you are utterly alone, a ghost in plain sight. Every closed door, every averted gaze, every whispered name that falls silent as you approach, reinforces the wall that has grown between them and you. The community, once a tapestry of interconnected lives, is unraveling, thread by thread, consumed by a fear that feeds on itself. As the chill deepens and the last slivers of light fade, you feel the profound, aching loneliness of a man living in the shadow of a monster. A monster he did not choose to become. Your resilience endures, but the heavy cost of this pervasive social paranoia weighs on your very soul. The air bites with a cold, metallic tang, a sickly sweet scent of stale grease and something far fouler. You hear the groan of unoiled hinges, the clank of heavy chains, and the scuttling of unseen things in the damp stone around you. The rough hands that drag you deeper into the dungeon are impersonal, brutal, offering no hint of mercy. Your muscles, already screaming from a life of constant evasion and sudden violence, protest every forced movement, every scrape against the unforgiving rock. This isn't the shadowy, romanticized capture of a clever spy. This is the grim, ignominious end for a desperate, low-status individual, betrayed to chains. Your eyes, straining in the dim, flickering torchlight, catch glimpses of iron teeth, of racks and stretching mechanisms, their monstrous shapes hinting at their purpose. The sight sends a fresh wave of ice through your veins, a cold terror that seizes your breath. You know, with absolute certainty, that no false identity, no carefully constructed persona, will save you here. The psychological toll of living under a fabricated name for months, even years, pales in comparison to the stark reality of discovery now. Each fabricated smile, each false show of loyalty you once offered a target or their family, now feels like a hollow echo in this echoing chamber of despair. The heavy manacles clamp around your wrists, the cold iron biting deep, and you feel the utter helplessness of being a pawn, stripped of all agency. Your assignments always came indirectly, through shadowy intermediaries, leaving you with little control over the mission, even less over your ultimate fate. Now, that shadowy employer network offers no protection, no rescue. You are disposable, a tool broken and cast aside, facing the consequences alone. The constant threat of capture, torture, and execution, with no chance of mercy, has always been the dark undercurrent of your existence. Now, it has surfaced. You remember Carausius, the Roman commander betrayed by his own treasurer. Betrayal is a currency in your world, one you've both dealt and received. Perhaps it was a careless word, a slipped disguise, Or perhaps a supposed ally simply saw an advantage in delivering you to your captors. It doesn't matter now. The outcome is the same. The promise of excruciating pain to extract confessions, to reveal secrets you may not even possess. They don't care about the truth of your desperate life, only the narratives they wish to impose, the political motivations they want to uncover or invent. A coarse hand shoves you forward, pushing you towards a hulking wooden frame. The wood smells of age and fear, impregnated with the sweat and blood of countless others who have passed this way. You feel your heart hammering against your ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. There is no glory here, no honor, only the brutal mechanics of medieval torture. Your body, already a vessel of misery from years of hiding and physical hardship, is about to face an ordeal far worse than any cramped barrel or secret room. As the rough hands bind you, you feel the profound silence that falls, the world shrinking to the confines of this chamber, the smell of grease, the cold bite of iron. All the years of paranoia, of being constantly hunted, culminate in this single, agonizing moment. Your resilience, though battered, still flickers, a tiny spark against the encroaching darkness. But in this place, humanity feels stretched thin, on the verge of snapping, leaving only the raw, undeniable sensation of pain, and the terrifying, relentless march of time. The chill of the damp earth seeps into your very bones, a final, unyielding embrace. Your skin still burns with the abrasive memory of rope, chafed raw against wrists and neck, a persistent ache that slowly begins to recede, dissolving into a dull, encompassing numbness. Above you, the sky is a uniform, heavy gray, reflecting the desolate quietness that now surrounds you. There are no grand eulogies, no lamentations, only the soft, persistent drip of moisture from overhead branches and the rustle of unseen critters in the undergrowth. This is the unmarked grave, the final indignity for a life erased. You lie there, still and silent, a stark contrast to the constant, frantic movement that defined your existence. No more assuming false identities, no more the immense psychological toll of maintaining fabricated personas for months or even years. The mental strain of potential discovery, of torture or death, has at last concluded, not with a flourish, but with this chilling finality. You were a desperate, low-status individual, a disgraced peasant, forced into this trade as a last resort, never an elite spy or noble agent. And this end, in this anonymous patch of mud, underscores that harsh, unglamorous truth. The quietness is profound, swallowing the echoes of a life built on emotional betrayal, on gaining trust only to later commit murder. The faces of those you deceived, those fleeting genuine attachments, now fade into the encroaching void. Your assignments, always indirect, dictated by shadowy employers who offered little control or payment, always left you vulnerable. Now, that vulnerability has culminated. Your existence was a continuous flight, marked by the constant sense of being hunted, betrayed, and used. Your grim end, a common fate for those like you, is not a legend, it's just the expected outcome. No one will speak your name in halls of power. No one will recall your deeds in celebrated tales. You were a pawn, an instrument for others to influence political and religious conflicts, often blamed without definitive proof, a convenient scapegoat. Your brief, brutal incursions into fortified castles or royal courts, your risky methods, all led to this, an anonymous resting place, far from any honor. Your physical hardship, the decades of hiding in cramped rooms or barrels, the misery of those days, now simply ends, not with a gasp, but with an exhale into nothingness. The mud cradles you, cold and indifferent, a silent witness to a life lived on the fringes, stripped of all dignity in its passing. Your story, like so many others of your kind, will remain untold, lost to the relentless march of time, swallowed by the earth that will bear no stone, no cross, no name. The pain, once a constant companion, now drifts away like smoke on the wind, leaving only the profound, absolute silence, the quietness that follows when a human life is utterly and completely erased. A persistent chill gnaws at your fingers and toes, seeping inward from the rough, unyielding stone of the damp walls. The air hangs heavy, thick with the cloying scent of mold and something vaguely sweet and sour, the undeniable aroma of rotting bread, a constant, stale reminder of sustenance barely given, barely received. You hear the slow, deliberate drip of water somewhere in the oppressive darkness, a maddening rhythm that marks the agonizing crawl of time. Each breath is shallow, cold, a taste of the misery that has become your constant companion in this forgotten corner. You shift, trying to find a softer spot on the hard-packed earth floor, but there is none. Your muscles ache with a deep, pervasive weariness that has nothing to do with recent exertion and everything to do with weeks, perhaps months, of forced stillness. This cramped, hidden space, little more than a cell, is your waiting house. Not the grand, shadowy lair of legend, but a miserable hovel, a physical manifestation of a life that went terribly wrong, a last resort. You, a disgraced peasant, an outcast, were never an elite spy, never a noble agent. You were a tool, kept hidden until your moment. The hours bleed into days, the days into a blur of identical monotony. You replay fragments of past assignments, the immense psychological toll of maintaining false identities, posing as a merchant, a pilgrim, a scholar. You remember the intense mental strain, the constant fear that a single misstep meant torture or a swift, brutal death. Here, in the damp solitude, that strain persists, shaping itself into the anxious anticipation of what comes next, or the chilling realization that nothing might come at all. Your life, your very being, feels suspended, without control, tethered to a shadowy employer network that offers meager payment and less mercy. You chew slowly on a piece of hard, stale bread, its mealy texture a scratch against your tongue. It's a bitter counterpoint to the romanticized portrayals of your kind, those tales of honor and cunning. The truth, etched into every aching joint and every worried thought, is far harsher. A tragic life, lived in hiding, constantly hunted, perpetually vulnerable. You reflect on the moral torment of recruiting informants, of the manipulation and coercion that binds them to you, a heavy burden that never truly lifts. The silence here is not peaceful. It's a living entity, pressing down, threatening to crush the last vestiges of your spirit. You listen for any sound from beyond the thick door, any indication that your assignment, your payment, or perhaps even your execution, is drawing near. The time here doesn't just pass, it drains you, slowly, relentlessly, consuming your physical strength, eroding your emotional resilience, hollowing out the very core of your humanity. In this waiting house, you learn that simply existing can be the most profound and exhausting form of suffering. Your body becomes a vessel, patiently enduring, as the unrelenting march of seconds steals away all that you once were. The stale, woody scent of the barrel presses in on you, thick and unyielding, mingling with the earthy tang of whatever it last held. Every inch of your body feels squeezed, contorted into an unnatural knot, ribs grinding against the rough staves, knees jammed against your chest. A splinter, sharp and insistent, jabs into your forearm, a tiny, exquisite pain that is quickly dulled by the crushing physicality of the space. You try to take a deep breath, but your lungs are constricted, allowing only shallow, desperate sips of the stifling air. This is barrel breath, the suffocating reality of hiding, a misery far removed from any whispered legend. The darkness is absolute, pressing against your eyelids even when they're open, creating a dizzying sense of disorientation. You are a desperate, low-status individual, not some elite spy with tailored gear. This cramped wooden prison is not a choice, but a brutal necessity, a desperate refuge for a life gone terribly wrong. The moments stretch, each one a torment, as you fight the urge to shift, to expand, to simply breathe without the wooden walls reminding you of your confinement. Outside, muffled sounds filter through the thick wood, footsteps, faint voices, the clatter of something heavy being moved. Your heart pounds a frantic drum against your ribs, each beat threatening to betray your presence. This isn't just physical discomfort, it's an immense psychological toll, the intense mental strain of knowing that discovery means torture, means death. You were trained for stealth, for brutal, risky methods to infiltrate fortified castles, not for this agonizing stillness. There is no glamour in waiting for years in such a space, only the slow erosion of your spirit. You remember the vastness of the sky, the stretch of open fields, the simple freedom of walking unimpeded. Now, even a small movement feels like a monumental effort, each muscle fiber screaming in protest. The silence outside your wooden prison is sometimes worse than the noise, breeding paranoia, imagining eyes piercing through the staves, hands reaching in. This harsh reality, this constant threat of being hunted and betrayed, defines your existence. There's no honor in this, only survival. A sudden thump above sends a jolt through you, pressing you further into the wood, a nail scraping painfully against your cheek. You hold your breath, forcing your body into absolute stillness, a statue carved of fear and aching limbs. Your very essence feels diminished, shrunk to fit this miserable space. The days, the nights, blur into an endless continuum of waiting, a test of pure endurance. You are a pawn, with little control over your mission, your payment, or your fate, wholly dependent on shadowy forces. As the muffled sounds eventually recede, leaving only the relentless thrum of your own blood in your ears, you feel the profound weariness settle even deeper. Time, a relentless, invisible current, slowly drains your body, but your will, though battered and bruised, somehow endures. This crushing physicality, this raw, undeniable pain, is the price of clinging to a life that offers no mercy, no escape, only the quiet, desperate breath within the wooden walls. The stale, bitter taste of copper lingers on your tongue, a phantom echo of the blackmail you just enacted. Your fingers, still slightly damp with nervous sweat, trace the crisp edge of the stolen parchment you've just pocketed, the damning evidence, the lever you now hold. You watch the man across from you, his face a mask of pinched dread, shoulders slumped in a silent tableau of defeat. The flickering torchlight casts long, dancing shadows, distorting the desperation in his eyes, but you see it clearly. It's the same desperation that forced you into this life, the same gnawing fear that drives you to orchestrate another's fall. This is the grim work of recruiting informants, a task devoid of any imagined glamour. It's not about witty persuasion or shared ideals. It's about finding the fracture, the secret sin, and twisting it open. You remember hours spent lurking in shadows, observing routines, listening to careless whispers, piecing together the threads of another's fragile existence. Your false identity as a quiet merchant, a diligent scholar, a humble pilgrim, always granted you access, allowed you to infiltrate the household, to witness the intimate moments that later become weapons. The psychological toll of maintaining these personas, of weaving such elaborate deceptions, tightens like a band around your skull. You gesture subtly towards the door, a silent command for him to leave, for him to begin his unwilling servitude. He nods, a jerky, mechanical movement, avoiding your gaze. You know the weight he carries now, the moral torment of his coerced compliance. It mirrors the burden you carry yourself, the manipulation, the coercion, the violence you must inflict or threaten. This isn't the work of elite agents. It's the dirty business of desperate individuals, where humanity is just another tool to be broken or bent. Your assignments always came indirectly, a whispered instruction from an unseen intermediary, often with little control over the specifics or the promised, often meager, payment. Your dependence on this shadowy network makes you as vulnerable as the man who just left. Your life, a harsh and tragic existence, is constantly hunted and betrayed. You are caught in a web where you betray, and are betrayed, a cycle that grinds away at any pretense of honor. The room settles into a heavy silence once he's gone, broken only by the crackle of the hearth. You feel the cold seep back into your bones, a familiar chill that has nothing to do with the temperature. It's the chill of profound moral compromise, the knowledge that you've just twisted another soul for your own survival. This isn't a choice, it's a desperate necessity. The copper taste of blackmail on your tongue deepens, a permanent stain, a bitter reminder of the unrelenting nature of a life lived always on the edge, always betraying, always enduring. The warmth of their breath on your neck feels intimately close, almost genuine, as you pull away, the manufactured tenderness dissolving into a chilling calculation. The night air, thick with the scent of spent candles and faint perfume, suddenly seems colder, sharpening the edges of the grim reality. You hear the soft, ragged catch of their breath, then a muffled sob that trembles through the quiet chamber, stifled behind heavy bed curtains. It's the sound of a heartbreaking, orchestrated by your own hand, the profound moral toll of manipulating love. This isn't passion, it's coercion, a weapon forged from false sentiment. Your fingers still tingle from their touch, but the sensation quickly fades, replaced by the familiar gnaw of psychological strain. For months, perhaps years, you meticulously built this fabricated persona, a loyal servant, a charming confidant, a devoted lover, infiltrating their household, gaining their absolute trust. You witnessed their intimate moments, shared their laughter, their fears, and perhaps, for a fleeting instant, even formed a genuine attachment. Now, you stand on the precipice of emotional betrayal, ready to twist that fragile bond into a means to an end, to commit the ultimate murder of trust. The weight of their vulnerability presses in on you, a heavy, suffocating blanket. You know the secrets they unwittingly shared, the careless words, the misplaced documents, the vulnerabilities of their family. These stolen notes, these whispered confessions, are now the leverage, the invisible chains you are tightening around their life. The bitter taste of blackmail, a flavor you know too well, rises in your throat. This isn't the romanticized life of an elite spy. This is the harsh, dirty work of a desperate, low-status individual, forced to use every available tool, even affection, to survive. Your assignments always came indirectly, a shadowed whisper from an unseen hand, offering little control over the mission, even less over your own payment or safety. This profound dependence on a shadowy employer network forces these morally fraught choices upon you. Failure to recruit this informant, failure to secure this vital intelligence, means your own imprisonment, torture, or execution. There is no mercy for those like you. No escape from the relentless cycle of betraying and being betrayed. You listen to the quiet sobs, feeling the familiar erosion of your own humanity, the hardening of a heart that once might have flinched. The distinction between your true self and the false identity you wear has blurred into an agonizing continuum. Each act of manipulation, each calculated kindness, leaves a deeper scar, a heavier burden. You are constantly hunted, constantly paranoid, living a harsh, tragic life devoid of honor. As the night deepens, carrying the faint, distant sounds of the outside world, you are left with the crushing weight of your actions, the profound and enduring cost of sacrificing love for survival, one stolen breath, one broken heart, at a time. The biting chill of the stone floor seeps into your knees, a cold that bypasses flesh and settles deep into your bones. Around you, the air is thick with the faint, sweet scent of beeswax and something ancient, almost reverent, clinging to the rough-hewn walls. A single, trembling candle flame casts long, dancing shadows, making the very gargoyles carved into the high archways seem to twitch and leer. You are alone in this forgotten corner, a midnight confession whispered not to a priest, but to the empty air, absorbed by the unforgiving silence. Your breath hitches, a shallow, ragged sound in the cavernous space. This profound quiet mirrors the hollow ache inside you, a space carved out by years of emotional betrayal. You remember their faces, the soft curve of a smile, the trusting glance, the intimate moments you skillfully cultivated only to shatter. To infiltrate their lives, you became someone else entirely, a merchant, a pilgrim, a loyal servant, each identity a finely woven lie. The psychological toll of maintaining these fabrications, the constant terror of discovery, of torture or an ignominious death, still gnaws at the edges of your sanity, even now, in this moment of stark reflection. You feel the phantom weight of the parchment you once stole, the memory of blackmail's copper taste on your tongue, the bitter triumph of coercion. Recruiting informants, manipulating their vulnerabilities, watching them break under the invisible chains you forged. It's a moral torment that never truly fades. You were not an elite spy, not some noble agent, but a desperate, low-status individual, forced into this grim trade as a last resort. Your life had gone terribly wrong, and these brutal, risky assignments, delivered indirectly by unseen hands, offered little control, even less mercy. The candle flickers, its tiny light a fragile counterpoint to the overwhelming darkness. It illuminates nothing but the raw, unvarnished truth of your existence. A harsh, tragic life lived in secrecy, constantly hunted, perpetually betrayed. Legends might be whispered of your kind, but they obscure this grim reality. You were a pawn, often blamed for politically motivated crimes without definitive proof, a convenient scapegoat in larger struggles. You were never truly valued, only used, your body and mind enduring physical hardship in cramped hiding places, decades of waiting, all for a fleeting moment of brutal action. You press your forehead against the cold stone, a silent plea for release, for something to lift the crushing burden. No absolution arrives. There is no one here to grant it, no higher power to truly hear. Only the persistent, cold reality of your choices, the profound loneliness that clings to you like a shroud. In this desolate space, you confront the unwavering truth. Your pain is your own, your resilience a necessity, and your humanity, though scarred and diminished, remains a quiet, enduring whisper in the cold, vast silence. The bitter, warm taste of ale coats your tongue, a fleeting comfort against the raw ache in your knuckles. You clench and unclench your bruised fist, feeling the dull throb where it connected with the tavern wall, a small, controlled outburst that offered a momentary release. The air here, thick with smoke and the murmur of strangers, is a sharp contrast to the suffocating silence of your hiding places, a brief reprieve from the constant internal clamor. This small, brutal ritual, the ale, the impact, is one of the few ways you have found to keep your mind from cracking under the immense psychological toll. You watch the flickering firelight dance across the faces of the patrons, each one a potential target, a potential mark, or a potential threat. For months, sometimes years, you've maintained false identities, a quiet merchant, a jovial pilgrim, a humble servant, meticulously crafted personas designed to infiltrate, to gain trust. You remember the strain, the relentless vigilance required to keep the mask in place, knowing that discovery meant torture, a gruesome, drawn-out death. Here, in the anonymity of the tavern, the mask slips just enough for the underlying exhaustion to show. The ale burns as it slides down your throat, numbing the sharp edges of memory. You recall the intimate moments you shared with your targets and their families, the genuine attachments that sometimes formed, only to be ruthlessly severed by your ultimate betrayal. The moral torment of those choices, the manipulative dance of recruiting informants, the coercion, the blackmail, it's a constant weight. You were never an elite spy, never a noble agent, but a desperate, low-status individual, forced into this trade by circumstances, not by choice. Your life went terribly wrong, and now these grim acts are your only means of survival. You take another long swallow, feeling the liquid warmth spread through your chest, a temporary balm for the deep-seated chill. This harsh, tragic existence, constantly hunted and betrayed, offers little honor, only the grim satisfaction of another day survived. Your assignments, indirect whispers from shadowy employers, offer no control, no mercy. Failure meant imprisonment, execution. So you endure, finding small, crude ways to quiet the screaming in your head, to dull the conscience that stubbornly refuses to die. The clamor of the tavern begins to fade into a background hum, the world softening around the edges. For a brief span, the heavy burden lifts, replaced by a hazy, fleeting sense of peace. But even in this numbed state, you feel the familiar thread of paranoia, the instinctive glance towards the door, the quick assessment of faces. It's ingrained, a reflex born of endless suspicion and the knowledge that your end could come from anywhere, anytime. Your body, bruised and weary, seeks this fragile escape, clinging to these small, imperfect rituals to simply carry on, to face another dawn with what little humanity you have left. The acrid smell of burning wood and sweat stings your eyes, even from your hidden vantage point in the darkened alcove. The roar of the mob is a primal beast, its collective voice a terrifying force, chanting accusations that echo the crackle of the leaping bonfire. You press yourself deeper into the rough stone, feeling the cold seep through your worn clothes, your heart thrumming a frantic counterpoint to their furious cries. They point, their fingers like skeletal branches against the flickering light, not at the true orchestrators of their misery, but at a shadow, a phantom enemy they've been taught to fear. Hashishin. They bellow, the very word a weapon. You, a mere disgraced peasant, forced into this brutal trade as a last resort, are now the face of this monstrous, secretive order in their minds. You, who know the immense psychological toll of maintaining false identities, the constant terror of discovery, are blamed for grand political schemes, for the sudden, unexplained death of some distant lord. They attribute every misfortune, every unexplained political shift, every inconvenient truth, to figures like you. It's an easy answer, a convenient outlet for their undirected fury, fueled by whispers from those who truly wield power. Their anger is raw, righteous, born from fear and desperation, but it's misplaced. You know the crushing reality of your life, the desperate measures, the emotional betrayals that gnaw at your soul, the indirect assignments where you have little control. Yet, in their eyes, you are a master of manipulation, a shadowy puppet master, pulling invisible strings to influence conflicts you barely understand. The secrecy and paranoia surrounding your kind have bred these very legends, obscuring the harsh, tragic truths of your existence. You are merely a pawn, and they a conveniently enraged populace. A stray ember drifts upwards, a fleeting spark against the dark canvas of the night, mirroring the fleeting glimpse you caught of a local official, smirking, subtly stirring the crowd with veiled pronouncements. This is how it works. Accusations politically motivated, convenient scapegoats found in the fearful, misunderstood figures of assassins. They need someone to blame, and your kind, operating in the shadows, with no one to speak for you, no means of defense, perfectly fits the role. It's a bitter irony. You exist in a brutal, lonely world, constantly hunted and betrayed, often meeting grim ends yourself, yet you are painted as an invincible, all-powerful enemy. The chanting begins to wane, the mob's fury slowly dissipating into a grumbling murmur, leaving behind the acrid scent of smoke and the chilling residue of collective hatred. You feel the heavy, undeserved weight of their blame, a crushing burden that far exceeds the brutal reality of your actions. You are the invisible man, carrying the impossible expectations and fears of an entire populace, a lightning rod for their anger. And as the firelight begins to dim, you are left with the profound, solitary burden of their projected malevolence, a quiet resilience, the only defense against a world determined to make you its villain. The biting scent of cold, congealed stew hangs heavy in the still air, a stark monument to a meal left untouched. You watch your mother's gnarled hands tremble slightly as she pushes the bowl further across the bare wooden table, her gaze fixed on the barred door, a barrier not against thieves, but against the crushing shame that now resides within these walls. Outside, the familiar sounds of village life have vanished, replaced by an unsettling quiet, a silence that speaks volumes of ostracism. You feel the weight of their averted eyes, the quiet despair settling over your family like a shroud. This is the collateral damage, the insidious reach of propaganda that twists your very name into a curse. Yesterday's furious chants, the pointed fingers in the firelight, have solidified into a tangible barrier. Hashishin. They screamed. A word that now echoes not just in the square, but in the emptiness of your home, staining every hearth and threshold. You, a disgraced peasant, forced into a shadow existence, never an elite spy or noble agent, are now the convenient monster in their stories. The accusations, politically motivated and entirely devoid of definitive proof, have done their work. Those in power, eager to deflect blame for their own failures, for the Lord's sudden demise, for the blight on the crops, found an easy scapegoat in the secretive world of assassins. They crafted legends from your forced anonymity, painting you as an insidious force pulling invisible strings, influencing conflicts you barely understood. Now, that manufactured paranoia has seeped into the very fabric of daily life, transforming your family's doorstep into a symbol of fear. You see your younger sibling huddled by the cold hearth, their small shoulders shaking, their innocent eyes wide with a shame they cannot comprehend. The doors that once welcomed neighbors now remain shut and bolted, a stark visual of their isolation. The warmth of community, the simple exchanges of greetings and gossip, have turned cold, replaced by an unnerving void. This public shaming, this quiet shunning, is a far crueler punishment than any blade. It's a slow, agonizing torment that strikes not at your body, but at the very heart of your lineage, an indelible mark of dishonor. The lingering scent of uneaten food, the barred doors, the heavy silence. These are the grim consequences of a life lived in shadows, a world where your harsh truth is obscured by convenient lies. The agony isn't just your own, it reverberates through the innocent, scarring them with a burden they did not earn. This enduring shame, a cold, pervasive ache, becomes a permanent part of your shared existence, a testament to the devastating reach of a skillfully wielded lie, slowly eroding what little humanity remains. The rough, splintered shaft of the wooden practice sword digs into your calloused palm, leaving a faint, familiar ache. Sweat stings your eyes as you parry an imaginary blow, the grunt escaping your lips raw and unrefined. There are no polished training grounds here, no master swordsman barking orders from elaborate manuals. Your classroom is the damp, shadowed corner of a forgotten barn, your only teacher the ghost of past failures and the brutal certainty of what failure truly means. Your knuckles are permanently scarred, testament to countless clumsy strikes and desperate blocks, each mark a lesson etched in pain, learned in blood. You raise the crude weapon again, its balance all wrong, heavier than any blade you'd ever be lucky enough to wield in a real confrontation. But this is what you have. You are a disgraced peasant, an outcast, not some knight's squire benefiting from years of formal instruction. Your training is a desperate scramble, a self-taught fight for survival. You move with an awkward, bone-deep weariness, mimicking the movements you've observed, the sudden, brutal efficiency of a tavern brawl, the swift, silent precision of a butcher. Every lunge, every duck, is an improvisation, fueled by the terrifying knowledge that your life depends on perfecting these ragged movements. You feel the burn in your muscles, the strain in your joints, a constant companion to the psychological toll that never truly eases. The need to assume false identities, to become a shadow in the lives of your targets, demands an internal discipline that mirrors this physical exertion. You might be posing as a simple merchant, a devout pilgrim, a humble servant, but underneath, your body must be capable of brutal, risky actions, of sneaking into fortified castles or royal courts. There's no glamour in this. Only the stark reality that your methods must be effective, even if ungraceful, because there will be no mercy if you are caught. The air is stale, thick with the smell of hay and damp earth, a stark contrast to the perfumed halls you might one day infiltrate. You practice the swift, silent thrust, envisioning the soft give of flesh, the quick, efficient end. It's a grim dance, one learned from necessity, not ambition. Your assignments arrive indirectly, through shadowy intermediaries, offering little control over the mission, less over your payment. This dependence, this vulnerability, sharpens the edge of your resolve. You push through the pain, through the exhaustion, because failure is not an option. It means imprisonment, torture, execution. You drop the wooden sword, your hands trembling slightly, the aches in your body a dull, persistent thrum. Each bruise, each scar, each drop of sweat is a harsh reminder of your desperate existence, far removed from any romanticized ideal. Yet, in this raw, unglamorous struggle, a profound resilience takes root, a testament to the unyielding human will to survive, even when all you have are bad blades and lessons learned in blood. The gritty, insistent rub of the hemp rope against your calloused palm is less a comfort and more a warning. You feel the individual fibers give, stretched thin and frayed in a half-dozen places, a silent testament to its age and countless previous burdens. This rope, a hand-me-down from some forgotten mission, isn't just old, it's a living monument to your disposable status. A stark reminder that quality tools are a luxury you can't afford. It scrapes at the skin between your fingers, threatening to splinter and snap with every inch you ascend. You brace your foot against a slippery protrusion on the cold, damp stone of the castle wall, a precarious dance in the dead of night. Every muscle in your body strains, the flimsy rope groaning above, holding you suspended between the indifferent earth and the unreachable parapet. You are no elite spy with finely crafted gear, no noble agent equipped for every eventuality. You are a disgraced peasant, an outcast, forced into this brutal trade by desperation, not by choice. Your life went terribly wrong, and now, these inadequate tools are all you have to navigate the razor's edge of life and death. The dull weight of the dagger at your hip presses into your side, its blade sharpened by your own hand, but never truly keen. You've spent hours honing it, knowing its lack of true edge means an extra struggle, a forced strike, a precious second lost that could mean discovery. These brutal, risky assignments, sneaking into fortified strongholds, bypassing vigilant guards, demand flawless execution, but your equipment consistently undermines any chance of it. Failure, you know too well, means imprisonment, torture, execution. There is no mercy for those who stumble. You pause, fingers cramping around the straining rope, peering into the inky blackness. A sudden, sharp crack echoes from above, and your heart leaps into your throat. It's just a branch, disturbed by the wind, but the jolt sends a fresh wave of panic through you. This reliance on frayed ropes and dull daggers, on tools that consistently threaten to fail, adds another layer to the immense psychological toll. You must be perfect, even when your very instruments conspire against you. Your life, a harsh, tragic existence, is constantly hunted and betrayed, and often, it's the smallest, most overlooked imperfection in your gear that proves to be your undoing. Reaching the top, you haul your weary body over the crenellated stone, the rope finally giving way with a soft, ominous snap just as your feet touch solid ground. You feel the tremor in your arms, the cold sweat clinging to your skin, the raw fear still prickling at the back of your neck. You've made it this time, but the stark reality of your unreliable tools, the constant dance with inevitable failure, is a heavy burden, another quiet torment in a life overflowing with it, challenging your resilience with every single breath. The lingering scent of lavender and coarse wool, a faint ghost of your child's small blanket, catches in your throat, a phantom touch in the cold, damp air of your hiding place. You close your eyes, pressing your face into the rough fabric of your sleeve, trying to conjure the warmth of a little hand, the soft curve of a cheek. But all that greets you is the chill, the biting reality of an empty cradle, a memory of soft breath now replaced by the rasp of your own. Your hearth is cold now, you know, just like the love that once glowed within it, snuffed out by your forced absence. You remember the quick, whispered farewell, the final glimpse of their faces etched into your mind. It was never a choice, this path you walk, but a last resort for a disgraced peasant, an outcast whose life had gone terribly wrong. You weren't an elite spy, never a noble agent, just a desperate soul caught in a net of circumstances. Yet, the price of that desperation is paid by those you left behind, the ones who wake to silence where your voice once was, who see an empty chair at the table where you once sat. The image of their faces, their trusting smiles, cuts deeper than any blade. It magnifies the immense psychological toll of your life, the years spent assuming false identities, posing as someone else, always on guard. You gained the trust of targets, yes, but often found genuine attachments with those around them, only to later betray them, to commit the unforgivable. That burden, heavy and unrelenting, is made heavier by the ghost of your own family, the constant reminder of what you sacrificed, what you lost, what they lost. You shift in the cramped space, feeling the ache in your joints, the cold seeping into your bones. This physical misery is a constant companion, a stark contrast to the distant memory of soft beds and warm meals. You endure it, just as they endure your absence, but the constant awareness of their struggle, of the shame and hardship your existence has brought upon them, adds a profound, moral torment. You wonder if they ever speak your name, or if it's too painful, too dangerous, swallowed by the silence of their ostracism. The thought of them, vulnerable and exposed in a world that would happily blame them for your actions, fuels a bitter strength within you. Assassins, you know, often meet grim ends, from betrayal or capture, and the likelihood of you ever returning to that cold hearth is a distant, painful hope. But the memory of that farewell, the faint scent of their innocence, acts as an anchor, a brutal truth that keeps you tethered to a fading humanity, even as you navigate a life designed to strip it away. You carry them, always, in the quiet, aching chambers of your heart, a constant thrumming pain that is both a curse and a strange, terrible source of resilience. The rain-soaked parchment crumbles slightly at the edges as your rough fingers trace the faded, unread words. The ink, thin and gray, seems to weep across the page, mirroring the unseen tears that prick at your own eyes. This is a letter, a confession, a desperate plea that will never find its destination, never ease the knot of regret tightening in your chest. You've carried it for weeks, maybe months, a silent, heavy burden tucked deep within your worn tunic, a tangible link to a life you were forced to abandon. You can almost feel the familiar scent of wood smoke and damp earth from the hearth you left behind. Hear the murmur of voices that once filled your small, humble home. But those are ghosts now, memories fractured by the brutal reality of your existence. You, a disgraced peasant, an outcast, were pressed into this grim trade as a last resort, not a chosen path. Your life went terribly wrong, and now, this frayed parchment represents the impossibility of ever making it right, of ever truly returning. The words you've scratched, simple and heartfelt, speak of longing, of apologies for absences you cannot explain. But each sentence feels like a lie, a betrayal, because the truth of your current life would only bring further danger and shame upon the very family you wish to comfort. The psychological toll of living a false identity, of constantly being someone else, makes sincere communication a perilous act. Discovery means torture, death, not just for you, but potentially for them. So the letter remains unsent, a silent testament to your isolation. You rub a thumb over a smudged line, a fleeting caress against the paper, imagining the familiar faces that would receive it. You know the emotional burden of betrayal well, having gained the trust of targets and their families, witnessing intimate moments, only to shatter them with murder. Now, this self-imposed betrayal, the inability to reach out to your own, gnaws at you with a different, perhaps deeper, pain. You are bound by a shadowy employer network, with little control over your missions or your meager payment. let alone the freedom to simply write a letter and send it. The damp cold seeps into your bones, mirroring the chill of permanent separation. You fold the parchment carefully, feeling the fragile paper resist, threatening to tear. It's a physical manifestation of your broken connections, a reminder of the harsh, tragic life you lead, constantly hunted and betrayed, always in hiding. The ink fades further with each passing week, just as the vividness of their faces sometimes blurs in your mind, a cruel erosion of what little comfort memory affords. You press the packet back against your chest, feeling the sharp edges through your tunic. The pain of the unsent letter, the enduring knot of regret, is a constant, quiet companion, binding you to a past that can never be, a testament to the brutal, unforgiving nature of a life lived outside the light. The incessant, maddening crawl of lice across your scalp is a constant, unwelcome companion, a tiny, teeming army colonizing your matted hair. You suppress the urge to scratch fiercely, knowing it only offers fleeting relief before the itch returns, stronger, more pervasive. It's another ignoble indignity in a life overflowing with them, a gritty, unglamorous truth that would never find its way into the embellished tales of shadowy, elite agents. No, you're just a disgraced peasant, an outcast, shoved into this brutal existence, and these wretched creatures are a stark reminder of your bottom-rung status. Your toes, perpetually frozen and numb beneath layers of threadbare cloth, throb with a dull, persistent ache. You rub them against each other, a futile attempt to coax warmth back into flesh long accustomed to the biting cold of damp cellars and abandoned nooks. This isn't the romanticized chill of a moonlit rooftop vigil. This is the bone-deep misery of endless hiding, of cramped spaces like barrels or secret rooms, where the cold seeps into your very marrow. It's a physical hardship that grinds you down, day after relentless day, adding to an already immense psychological toll. You shift in your hiding place, perhaps a forgotten corner of a barn or a recess in a castle wall, the musty scent of damp earth and stale air heavy in your nostrils. The silence is broken only by the scurrying of unseen vermin in the shadows, their tiny claws a reminder that you are not alone in this desperate scramble for survival. You are constantly hunted, constantly betrayed, and even in these moments of stillness, there's no true peace. Your body is a vessel of constant discomfort, a canvas painted with scratches, bruises, and the indelible marks of neglect. This relentless physical misery drains your spirit, dulls your mind, making it harder to maintain the fabricated personas you must adopt. How do you pose as a respectable merchant or a devout pilgrim when your very skin crawls, when your toes are frostbitten lumps, when the exhaustion is so profound it threatens to unravel your carefully constructed lies? This isn't a chosen career, with glamour or honor. It's a harsh, tragic life where even basic comfort is a forgotten dream. The contrast between the legends spun about you and the grim reality of your everyday existence couldn't be starker. You pull your knees closer to your chest, trying to conserve what little body heat remains, the incessant itch a drumbeat against your skull, the frozen ache in your feet a constant hum. This is the truth of it, the mundane, humiliating suffering that no one ever glamorizes, a testament to the sheer, unyielding endurance of a human body pushed to its absolute limits, even when every fiber of your being screams for a moment of quiet warmth and freedom from the constant, tiny torments. A sickeningly sweet smell, thick and cloying, rises from the wound in your side, a stench of corruption that fills the cramped space you call a hiding spot. Your skin burns, hot and dry to the touch, yet shivers rake through your body, a relentless internal battle against an unseen enemy. Each breath is a shallow, painful gasp, and the world blurs around the edges, dissolving into fevered dreams where shadows dance and whispers become menacing shouts. The wound, a deep gash from a clumsy parry against a castle guard, now oozes with pus, a constant, ugly reminder of a mission that went sideways and the grim consequences of your desperate trade. You press a dirty rag against the angry red flesh, a futile attempt to stem the tide, but the infection has taken root, a venomous bloom spreading through your veins. There's no healer for you, no clean bandages or soothing poultices. You are a low-status outcast, a disgraced peasant with no one to turn to, no gold to pay for a hidden cure. This slow decline from infection and poverty is the brutal reality of your life, a stark contrast to the romanticized legends spun about shadowy, elite assassins. Your story is written in pus and pain, not poetic glory. The days bleed into nights, marked only by the shifting light outside your tiny aperture and the relentless throbbing beneath your ribs. You try to focus, to cling to consciousness, but the delirium pulls you under, twisting memories into grotesque caricatures. The faces of those you've infiltrated, those you betrayed, swim before your eyes, their trust now a condemnation. The immense psychological toll of assuming false identities, of living a lie, is amplified by this weakness, this vulnerability. Discovery now would mean not just torture or death, but a long, agonizing unraveling of your carefully constructed facade while your body rebels against you. You curl into a tighter ball on the cold, damp earth, every movement sending jolts of agony through your ravaged body. The thirst is a torment, your throat raw and parched. You'd risk crawling to the stagnant puddle nearby, but even that simple act feels monumental, a Herculean effort your failing body can barely contemplate. This physical misery, living in cramped hiding places for days or weeks, is now compounded by a sickness that threatens to devour you from within. You are constantly hunted, constantly on edge, and now, even your own flesh conspires against you. A cough racks your frame, spitting a metallic taste into your mouth. You close your eyes, feeling the clammy sweat on your forehead, the frantic beat of your heart. There's no honor in this slow, agonizing retreat, no dramatic end. Only the quiet, desperate struggle against a fever that burns away your strength, against a body that betrays you with every agonizing beat. Yet, even in this decline, a primal flicker of resilience pushes back, a stubborn refusal to simply fade, a testament to the sheer, unyielding fight for life that pulses in even the most tragic and forgotten of medieval souls. The bright, vibrant twang of lute strings slices through the cold night air, a melody both jaunty and familiar, pulling you from the immediate reality of cramped shadows. You can almost feel the warmth of the tavern fire from here, a phantom heat against your chilled skin, a stark contrast to the damp chill seeping into your bones in this miserable alleyway. A storyteller's voice, rich and booming, rises above the din of laughter and clanking tankards, beginning a tale that makes your gut clench with a bitter, familiar irony. He speaks of shadows and whispers, of figures cloaked in impossible cunning, agents of swift, silent death. He weaves a tapestry of exaggerated deeds, of noble targets brought low by mysterious, unseen hands. He tells of hashishin, a word delivered with a theatrical flourish, as if it conjured an image of elite, formidable spies, masters of their dark craft. You press yourself further into the rough stone of the wall, the dull ache in your back a potent reminder of your true existence, a world away from his fantastical pronouncements. You hear him describe breathtaking escapes, intricate plans, an almost supernatural ability to infiltrate the most fortified castles. The audience roars with appreciative gasps and murmurs, soaking in the warm glow of myth that surrounds a cold, brutal fact. You can feel the resentment simmering within you, a quiet fury that no one, absolutely no one, understands the truth. You are no master of disguise by choice, but a desperate, low-status outcast, forced to assume false identities for months, even years, just to survive. Maintaining these fabricated personas is an immense psychological torment, not a glamorous art. He recounts an infamous strike, perhaps like the one against Conrad of Montferrat, painting the assassins as tools of destiny, wielding immense influence. You know, however, that assignments come indirectly, through shadowy intermediaries, offering little control over the mission or the paltry payment. You know that accusations against your kind are often politically motivated, used as convenient scapegoats in larger struggles, blamed for crimes without definitive proof. The truth of it all is so much harsher, so much more tragic than his flowing verses could ever capture. You taste the dust on your tongue, the lingering bitterness of fear and hunger. Your hands, calloused and scarred, betray a life of struggle, not elegant stealth. Your heart pounds not with the thrill of the hunt, but with the constant, grinding paranoia of being hunted yourself, of betrayal from within your own shadowy network. The bard's lute strings pluck at a raw nerve, a constant reminder of the profound gulf between the legends they spin and the harsh, lonely, dishonorable truth of your existence. You are a cold fact, hidden in the shadows, while the world basks in the comforting, yet utterly false, glow of your myth. The sheer endurance required to live this life, to bear the burden of such a colossal, romanticized lie, is a testament to a quiet, aching resilience no song will ever praise. The warm spray of the shower cascades over your shoulders, dissolving the day's tensions, a gentle steam rising to kiss your face. You breathe deeply, the clean scent of soap a simple luxury, a profound comfort. Every muscle loosens under the steady stream, washing away not just grime, but the quiet anxieties of modern life. Your mind drifts, unburdened, to thoughts of tonight's meal, a steady, guaranteed nourishment. There's a soft bed waiting, a secure room, a predictable morning. This quiet rhythm, this everyday safety, is so deeply ingrained, you rarely even register its presence. But imagine, for a moment, that steady, hot water replaced by the biting cold of a forgotten well, or the stagnant, brackish taste of a hidden puddle. Imagine the soap replaced by caked dirt and the incessant itch of vermin, a constant, maddening irritation against your skin. For a medieval assassin, a disgraced peasant or outcast forced into this grim trade, such simple comforts were an unimaginable dream. Their hiding places weren't warm rooms, but cramped barrels, damp cellars, or secret crevices in ancient stone, where the cold seeped into your bones, and the very air was thick with the scent of mildew and desperation. You reach for a soft towel, feeling its clean dryness against your skin. Now, picture that soft towel as a rough, threadbare cloak, perpetually damp and smelling of fear. The clean clothes you put on? For them, it was often the same garments, worn for weeks, months, years, their fibers brittle with dirt and sweat, a silent testament to a life lived on the fringes, constantly moving, constantly hiding. There was no glamour, no elite status, just the grinding reality of physical hardship, endured for decades, waiting for a signal, for an opportunity. The knowledge of a hot meal, waiting for you without question, is a fundamental pillar of your day. But for the assassin, every bite was a gamble, every scrap fought for, scrounged from the edges of society. Dependence on a shadowy network meant often little control over payment, let alone steady food. Hunger was a constant, gnawing companion, sharpening the edges of fear, making the psychological toll of maintaining false identities even more unbearable. To be a merchant, a pilgrim, a scholar, while your stomach growled and your body ached from days without proper sustenance. That was the true art, the brutal, unglamorous magic. You settle into your evening, surrounded by the quiet hum of a secure world. A world where the biggest threat is often a forgotten appointment, not a swift, brutal execution. This steady existence, this predictable comfort, offers a profound lesson. It's a mirror held up to a life of shadows, revealing the true weight of constant paranoia, of emotional betrayals that haunted a soul, of knowing failure meant torture, imprisonment, or a grim, unmourned end. The simple fact of your unthreatened humanity, your resilience not against blades but against boredom, stands as a stark, quiet testament to how much we owe to the steady, warm embrace of civilization.